So I think what we do is we're going to make this interactive. So any questions for David, points, disagreements if people have a different point of view? Can we? Anybody want to?
Just one question on the brand. You know, words don't travel sometimes. So do you find that the image, if you're trying to create brands on a global basis, it's the image of the brand that makes the difference, or have you had any experience of that?
I've had a lot of experience taking US ad campaigns, and in some cases British ad campaigns. The British ad campaigns are generally more clever, actually. And so, of course, I'm sure people are aware these days a lot of the high-budget campaigns are shot intentionally to be subtitled, or sorry, to actually be dubbed, to actually be shown the same visual but with a different language. So that kind of thinking is now very common. I think it depends on the brand. I think that works if you're like FMCG, if you're dealing with something which is very, very generic. I think that it's quite easy to do that. I think if you're dealing with something which is pretty specific, I think it's quite hard.
So I have a question for the audience, actually. How many people are involved with the telecoms industry here? So my question is, if you look at when I first started, well, even as recently as 2 years ago, all the major telcos would say to me, we have a very different business model for India, which is based on very low ARPU, very high sign-up rate, and they were in this growth trajectory. And the idea was that low-cost services and high-volume growth was going to be the way forward. Having saturated the market base now in India, they're now faced with the challenge of increasing the amount of revenue per customer, and that involves providing value-added services. Related to David's point, how many of you out there, what's your view about let's question one, are the Indian telcos equipped to do this task, or are they going to be like all the European telcos who dismally failed? Does this create an opportunity for people to provide over-the-top services and new players? And how does that play into the idea of creating new brands? Any thoughts from people like that? Yeah, sorry. Did you all hear me? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the telecom industry in India is right now at a juncture where from a voice only, voice SMS only economy is kind of opening up to data, and data is the only ray of hope for a lot of telcos. Okay, so now data is an interesting thing now, because by data it is internet, and it is internet and it is smartphones, right? So the walled garden is very difficult for a telco to sustain. However, in India, the challenge largely lies in collecting money from the customer. So even if you have to run over-the-top service, there is no other option right now but to work with the telcos. So to answer your question, yes, the ray of hope only is from the data, and about 60-70% of the revenues probably would be driven from the pure access side of data. Okay. However, 30-40% revenues would still come from content applications where over-the-top companies have to work with the telcos, to charge the end customer. But if it's an ad-supported model for a business, then you don't need that. So I think the trade-offs lies in both the ends. But in an ad-supported model in India, the ARPUs or the effective CPMs are fairly low for anybody to kind of build a sustainable business.
Mobile VAS.
Do you want to pass the mic, actually?
I think
yeah, it's working.
In mobile VAS, I think it's very challenging because the margins are very low, and we have been working on mobile VAS for the last 2.5-3 years, and you have seen how the shift has happened. I don't see much pricing power in the hands of the operator to increase the prices for the products. And what has actually happened is the reverse, because there's a lot of squeeze. Everyone has been talking about like how the shift will happen. Like now the operators take close to the telecom operators take close to 65-70% of the revenue, and how it is opposite, the reverse in foreign countries, and how the shift is going to happen in India. But only the talk has been there, nothing has happened. And when we started working, we were working with a lot of text-based products. I own a movie website called Komolo, and we do a lot of mobile VAS related to movies. And now we have seen the shift from text to images to WAP to video. But unfortunately, the pricing has not really gone up. And a lot of times when you have been actually working with a particular product, because there's always someone new who is willing to offer the same product at a lower cost or a lower margin, and there's so much competition, at least perceived competition among the operators themselves, that they're always trying to keep the prices down to get new customers, which is very, very challenging in the current scenario with ARPs going down and all. So you've actually seen people pushing for more content for the same value. So actually it's even a double whammy for the content providers, because they're not able to really keep up with the demand for the operators. So they're always willing to change the operator content partner, or content provider at the top of the hat, thinking that someone else can provide better content or a cheaper content at the same price. And sometimes they are also looking for brands, which has become very difficult for smaller operators or smaller companies, because see, a lot of big media companies have their own brands, and they're on YouTube, they have a channel, or they have a say channel on, say, page on Facebook, and then extending it to mobile VAS also. So there's a lot of demand for the brands to come on mobile. So there's very little space for the independent operators, the mobile VAS companies or mobile VAS partners to really operate in the space. I think it's becoming more challenging.
I've actually got another take on the opportunity in data which you were talking about. I think the real opportunity lies in rural India, where, I mean, you have, right now you have about, 900 million mobile phones in the country, and out of which about 575 to 600 million phones are in rural India. And it's in rural India where the opportunity for voice and SMS services exists. The data opportunity does not exist in rural India currently because they don't have access to the mobile internet. They cannot afford data plans, so they can't afford to possibly see a video of their favorite Bollywood movie. But they can, of course, afford to hear the voice clip or hear the ringtone, or get an SMS about a movie script or about a movie that's happening, or hear a voice clip of their favorite movie star. So I think operators till now have not been able to fully exploit the opportunity in rural India where voice and SMS services are concerned, because it's a long tail of content. The same content that was being exploited in urban India 5, 6, 7 years ago can now be exploited in rural India, and operators can make the revenues from rural India from the same from the long tail content that was being exploited several years ago in urban India. So I think that's where the operators have missed out, but the opportunity still exists currently for them to grab hold of it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody want to comment or? Yeah, David, yes, come back.
So the mobile experts here, has anybody seen any lift on any new ad formats or new services that are unique to India? You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know enough about it, but is there anything that's been indigenously, somebody's come up with something which has really shown traction here that hasn't been done before?
I can talk about it. So thanks. So one unique service that the operators are offering is what's the I mean, in India this caller ringback tone is something very popular. It's not so unique. It's unique to India. It's not very popular in the rest of the world. And operators are using that as a channel to play advertisements as opposed to a song or something, and that gives a level of a personalization that you can basically subsidize the subscriber's mobile bill and use that to for the subscriber to play an advertisement when somebody calls them. So that's something that is very unique, that at least I have found that very innovative use of channel that typically is not used for advertising.
You talk about apps only or like games also?
I was just, anything,
So
I'm just curious.
I don't know if it exists in foreign countries. I'm not really seeing how it operates there. But there's something called App Wrapper which is working really well here, because it's very difficult to put ads on the apps or the games themselves. So what they do is like put a wrapper kind of thing around the app, and the ad plays on the app wrapper, and that works, I think, well.
And people here seem to be more tolerant of all kinds of different mobile advertising, right? Or is that just my perception?
No, they're generally tolerant, and so to answer it, to put a comment on the question that you have asked, which is there a particular app or a killer app that we have found for rural India, or which can take off the data usage in India? It's not yet there. half of the country doesn't relate to YouTube or Facebook.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big opportunity for anyone because that killer app which can relate to the Indian masses is yet to come.
So that's also partly related to the languages, right? I mean, you can't have one app in, say, an English or a Hindi language, and you can't reach out to the masses. So for every region, every part of the country, you need to have a different language-specific, culture-specific content, which makes it very difficult.
Yeah.
There's an app called Rocket Talk. I don't know how to
Can I suggest it's probably good, I don't know whether you can hear it.
Antakshari is like, if you know it, like singing rhymes and all, like matching tunes and all. So they did this thing, and I think it was one of the greatest success for Nokia in the mobile space. So they are doing quite well in this cities, and it's I think misconception that people really don't want to watch videos on the small screen in a feature phone. I think because 3G, we know that 3G has not really taken off in India, and the penetration was the lowest in the market and in the global markets. Actually, a lot of people are actually patient to watch small videos on 2G or 2.5G, and that video market is doing well.
I have a few comments on the video market. We launched a mobile TV service 3 years back in the market, and it was more an experiment that our techies wanted to do. We never thought that we were going to make money in it. But today we have close to about 200,000 subscribers, who pay 50 pence a month to access television on 2G as well as on 3G. So I think there is a huge appetite for people to consume video on the phones, and that's the only thing that I've seen an uptrend in terms of our service portfolio. I mean, we've tried a whole lot of other services also, from SMS to voice and stuff like that.
What's the name of that service?
Sorry?
What's the name of that service?
It's Hello TV.
Hello TV. It's an interesting brand that I hadn't heard about until now. So what are you doing to promote it, or are you not promote it?
I mean, we work with the operators, so we're working with a few operators,
Okay.
Who share a decent revenue share. But the problem in the market is, like he had pointed out, the telco ecosystem in India is highly tilted in favor of the telcos.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so it is not easy to make money or extract margins in a relationship with the telco. Okay, so it's only few telcos in India who are giving equitable revenue share, and that's the only way to collect money from the end user right now.
The branding's a really interesting thing. If you take the UK and learn from the UK experience, where Nokia came out with Nokia with music, Vodafone did it, Coca-Cola did it, and what those brands did is they thought, well, let's just get in on the music side of it, and the experience of that is don't go with their brand. So if you've got a brand, the experience in the UK is go with a brand that's not of the operators, because the consumer turns around and says, Coca-Cola makes the most fantastic dark drink, but they don't do music. Nokia have got a fantastic network, but they don't do music. So we do music, and we watch this all the time and see people make mistakes. So if you have a good brand like yours, I think that there's a really good sales opportunity to the operators to maintain your brand, because their brand doesn't work in every space.
So can I ask, there's a follow-up question really, because one of the things we've seen in the UK and in Europe was a very similar situation to the one you have here. Initially, the operators were taking 70% of the revenues, and they were not interested in giving that up. And then virtual network operators were permitted. And basically, now it's reversed, that relationship. So at the moment, my understanding is mobile virtual network operators are not permitted legally in India. It seems to me that what you're trying to do would be really augmented your brand if you could actually be a virtual network operator riding over all these different cells. So do you agree, and do you think that's...
There's no scope for virtual operators in India. There are already 9 operators in each circuit. So,
yeah, but I mean, it may be that the way that
Virgin had come to the
yeah, I know, yeah,
and launched the virtual network. So even from a regulatory perspective, there are hurdles, and from a market acceptance and penetration, the cost of running the network and acquiring users is huge in India. So it's just not going to be a business case for a virtual operator.
So I have a prediction to make, which is that when some of the telcos really start to hurt, if the regulation is relaxed, you will start to see the emergence of virtual network operators.
Sure. I mean, if the regulations change, yes.
Okay, I think we're kind of... one more point down the back, yeah. Can we get a mic to you?
Srivastav, I represent a payment solutions company, It's Cash. So this debate has been very interesting always, that the VAS market doesn't expand because there's a certain 70% revenue that the operator takes. But the only way it can expand in India, maybe one of the routes that you said, but the only way it can expand in India is if the operators are willing to build third-party payment solutions, wallets on the mobile phones. I think there also they have a little bit of their own interest, because they also see building their own mobile wallets, because they definitely have a network that can be used for reload. But somewhere that story of mobile operators developing their own wallets hasn't really started or even succeeded. I think Airtel has tried that. It has got some traction, but not so many in numbers. And in a different context, Nokia Money was also trying the same thing, but we all know the Nokia story in India. They have already closed that operation. On the regulator side, which is RBI in the wallet applications case, they have already, let's say, permitted the mobile wallets, but with the KYC. So if you take the rural guy or rural profile guy who wants to download a video, he's not going to give his KYC. So these regulations also need to be a little bit relaxed. And of course, the mobile wallet is permitted up to 50,000 rupees with KYC. But if that mobile wallet without KYC can be, let's say, for 1,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees in small denominations, then I think they will give a good fillip to the direction of VAS. And VAS is the only way that the whole ecosystem can really make money, whether it's the operators or the content developers, because content developers are today dependent on what is left after the 70% share. So that's why somebody was making the point that there's not enough money and incentive to do that. But I guess once the mobile wallet with a relaxed norm comes into place and third-party wallets also have a play, then I think then the market will expand. So that's the point I wanted to make.
Thank you. For those people from the UK, you use some acronyms. RBI is the Reserve Bank of India, which has to, if there's money transactions, there needs to be approval. And KYC is, of course, know your customer, which is the anti-money laundering regulation. I just thought I'd better, in case there's anybody thinking of these new acronyms appearing, I saw your look on your face, because the whole question of moving money around. But there have been some very interesting casualties of some of the early players in India. I read yesterday that M-Check is no longer trading. I remember meeting them 4 years ago. So it's a very volatile space. There'll be lots of winners and lots of losers, but the trajectory will be upwards, I guess. Just want to make sure you're one of the winners. So what I thought was, I think that's probably enough. Venki, would you like to come up and provide